we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
Hello there. Today is a big day in the retrofit of this boat, because today we're going to tackle the electrical panel. And not just the electrical panel, but we're tackling how we're going to connect to the new power system on the boat, which is lithium batteries, the Multiplus Inverter, converter, all that. So this is where we disconnect the old and tie in all the new and put the new panel in. So I'm going to try to show you guys everything I do here. Try to keep it as simple as possible to understand, but there are some complexities, so I'm going to try to figure out how to make it seem simple. But to start with, I think it's important that you would understand how the boat's originally wired, because that's tying into how I'm going to connect the boat systems up to the new power and leave the drive systems of the boat connected to the old lead acid battery. So the engines will still have the lead acid batteries, and the interior of the boat, the water pump, the lights, and stuff like that will all have the new lithium power. So including the water heater, the macerator pump, I mean, we're going to have all that stuff connected to the new power. So how are we going to do that, and how are we going to separate the two? That's what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to start by showing you, or telling you, how the boat is wired to some of the things that we can work with. So this boat was built with a generator from the factory. And so it is wired with a manual switch, which is right here, that lets you switch between shore power and generator power. And that switch is key to what I'm going to do here, because I am going to factor that fact that that's already switched. I'm going to be able to use that as one of the ways to connect. The other switches here is the water heater on off switch. That's pretty simple. We're just going to leave water heater. We're going to leave that alone. We'll leave that so we can turn the water heater on and off. It works fine. The next one is where it allows you to switch over to shore power from 12 volt power. That's the other switch that is super important and a key to how we're going to be able to wire this. So we're going to have this switch here, which lets you switch over to what would have been the original 12 volt converter, which would allow the interior systems to be powered by the shore power if you're plugged into it. That presumably also would work with the generator on, as you think about it. I believe the way this is wired, that just allows you to turn on the 12 volt converter and then activate the power systems in the boat. So that is also a super key switch and wiring that allow us to separate the lithium power now. So let's move forward and I'll show you what we're going to do. So I think, as far as advice on this project, before you disconnect the AC power, assuming you have an active system going and it's functional, this is how this boat does, it's not a bad idea while the power's on to get a sense of where wires are running, what things are doing. And so I have a little tester here, and I can go through and I can test. It's interesting, the sound's not working on this, but see the red light? So there's definitely power there. And there. But these two are not doing anything, so we can start to get a sense. See there, that? So we can get a sense of which wires are hot, and I think my advice is try to figure out what everything is doing. Where are all these wires running? What are they going to? And label them if you can figure that out, so that after you tear this all apart, that it's going to be a lot harder to figure out. Now, also we can figure it out because in the breaker panel, it is moderately well marked. So I already have a sense, you can flip breakers off and on, you can figure out what everything does. So once we pull the panel out, I'll be able to find which breaker it is and see which wire it is, and I'll be able to label it that way. So hopefully by the time we're disassembled this, we'll have an idea of what every wire is doing. I thought I should mention that this project is primarily alternating current, AC power. This is the shore power coming in from your plug, or if you have a generator, it's generator power. So we're primarily dealing with AC. In this boat, I actually am not planning to touch the DC power system much at all. There are two different circuit boards. They're old-fashioned fuses, but honestly, the condition of the wire, the condition of everything's in such good shape. I just don't have any reason to mess with the DC. We're just going to tie in the DC to the new inverter converter, and that's all we're doing DC. This is all about rewiring the AC panel and making sure that's safe, because this panel, when you open it up, it looks horrid. I've opened it up once before just to put a new converter in, regular old lead acid battery converter charger. One of the first things I ever did in this boat, and I tied it in there, but it's a disaster. So we've got to clean that up and clean up the AC wiring for sure. And so that's, keep that in mind. We're not doing anything with 12 volt. Here's the bottom of the circuit breakers. So we can see that the circuit breaker that was going to the heater also is feeding another wire. And I believe that's just outlets, because I noticed when I shut the circuit breaker off to the heater that I lost an outlet down the other side of the boat. So now I know which, well, let's see, I know the wire that came from the heater. I pulled it all the way through and it's in here, so I can then sort out that. Next circuit breaker should be going, yeah, there's my new wire. Next circuit breaker is going to the battery charger, and the circuit breaker board says it also went to the refrigerator, so I wonder if there's a wire here that is to power the refrigerator, but I don't see it. Next one down is the water heater, and probably some outlets. There's two wires in there. And then the final one is the air conditioner. Hard to believe that little wire would be going to the air conditioner. You can see that I put a couple labels on the ones I know. This one going to the heater, I know we're abandoning the heater. I don't need to label that because I already got the wire pulled out in there. I'll figure that out. So these two wires that are connected through the box, we have to cut them because we have to take the box out. So okay, I got that one. Oh, we did it. Got this little thing out of here. All right, so next project, now that the panel's out, is to really get organized in this disaster. I think I'm going to hook up the DC right away. You can see that I've labeled this wire direct current, and so we're going to figure out, which we know where that is. We're going to figure out where we're tying that in, and we're going to hook up the direct current and slide that wire under all these AC wires because it's a separate deal. So I think I'll do that along with organizing. All right, got that guy out. This is a nice unit, just not going to work with lithium, so we'll figure out what to do with that later. So I'm looking at the new panel, and now we're going to see how it might fit in the old space. So I think it's thinner. It is thinner. And there's these big holes out here that don't look very nice, so
you're gonna have to make a faceplate for it.
Yeah.
And it's also longer.
Yeah, it's taller.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to cut a little bit down and make a faceplate. Alright, well, let's think about how we're gonna do that.
Well, I think you should just use that same black material.
Yeah. Like
do you have any more of that?
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, oh, you did that? Okay, so got my little panel ready that is going to hide all the oversized hole here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it up here the way I want it, and then I'll draw a line in the places we need to cut fiberglass. And that'll work. I think the jigsaw will probably work on this. So to update on some things, I was looking at the switch here where you could select between the generator and the shore power. And I've got a good look at the wire that they're using from the shore power into the boat. And I realized they're using a number 14 wire. They wired this boat with number 14 wire for 30 amp service, which probably worked fine when they built this boat because there was not a lot of draw anywhere in this boat. I mean, nothing short of the air conditioner used a ton of power. So, and then the heater, you wouldn't be using the same time as the air conditioner. So I could see, I guess, how that worked. But I don't think for the future that we want number 14 wire running 30 amp service. That's just not, that's not adequate. So we need number 10 wire. So I'm taking this chance to rewire to the shore power connection. And I've actually pulled that out of the boat, and I have a path to run it. It runs right in behind the helm station and runs down under, so it's very close. The only thing is that these days I don't find it easy to find a number 10 like Romex, like a black Romex, which, since it's visible under the helm station here and running down, certainly don't want this bright orange Romex that you can buy, or even this stiff gray stuff that I bought wherever the heck it is. I bought this stuff for running through the bilge, this waterproof stuff. Well, geez, this is hard to bend and work with, and it would be a terrible thing to try to snake through here. So I needed something supple. So I finally just resorted, since I don't have a lot of, I just want to get this done, and I've resorted to individual wire. I'll adjust here so you can see what I'm doing. I've resorted to individual wire, and I'm making my own Romex, basically, just taping it together so I can, so it'll look nice and I can run it easily. So the only thing I don't like about what I'm making here is that I would have liked to have a green wire for the ground. You know, in a normal Romex, that wire would be just bare copper, but I don't want to do that. So I'm using, so I'm using a black wire for the ground, but the way that I'm telling it apart is the black wire is a number 12 wire instead of a number 14 wire, because the ground wire doesn't need to be as thick necessarily as the common and the hot wire for this AC situation here. So that's just going to run a short ways down here, and I'm not going to use the switch anymore. I'm going to abandon the switch, and when we do install a generator in here, a new generator, then we'll just put an automatic transfer switch right down in here where this wire comes to an end. And so the automatic transfer switch will automatically switch between shore power and generator power. And so we don't have to worry about having a manual switch right here. So not sure what we'll do with that space. I won't worry about that right now. But I got this guy started, and I'm going to come from the outside and snake him through and pull him on down. And so it's going to be kind of an annoying process here while I wrap this. I'm going to have to get more tape probably. Because I might have to drill a bigger hole getting this stuff through. Beautiful. There's the old wire, and here comes the new one. We're just gonna join this up with the wire that goes back to the Multiplus, because it's not gonna do anything here except eventually we can put in an automatic transfer switch for the generator, which means we have to bring generator power all the way up here. Seems kind of silly. I don't know. We'll figure out that when the time comes, but we'll join up this with the wire heading to the back now, and we'll worry about a generator when that time comes. So we're getting down to where we're going to be finally installing things. This is the back cover that is going to come on from the back side and cover up all the wires where they're connecting there. So we've got to put holes in this, and we're going to use actually the same little fittings that were on the old panel. Just put them through and wherever we need them. And I'm not afraid to put a couple wires at once through these, depending on the size of the wire. So that should be it. Perfect. Okay, so now the real fun part. We got to get all these freaking wires shoved from while this is in here through the box, pull them through so that we can actually wire the panel. And we got to not forget to put this on here, because the wires all have to go through that too. We got to not screw this up. So first things first, getting all the wires in. Hey. Okay, now we're going to try to shove these wires into the back of the panel, every single one of them. Happy day. Okay, so this panel pretty much is designed so that you have to use ring terminals on all of them. And so that is a ton of ring terminals to install. Well, hey, there we go. I sure hope this is going to work. Okay, hot wire connects right in here. Neutral wire connects right here. Those run through those fuses and then onto the bus bars. The ground wire comes in right here. So, actually, I could probably come anywhere on here, to be honest. And that guy is extra for one more fuse that could be installed in here. Yikes. Length is going to be challenging. I do think that's everything. I do think. Okay, so with the electrical panel theoretically all hooked up, I'm thinking that before we really screw everything down, that we want to test everything out. So before I test everything out, I want to make sure the Multiplus and everything over here is all hooked up also. Not that I plan to turn it all on immediately, but I mean, I just want to be ready. So I'm just checking all these guys and make sure they're tight, which I'm getting them tight, and I'm getting ready to put these covers on. That one's ready to go. This one might need a little adjusting. So we'll get a little adjustment on that so it fits. Everything in the Multiplus is hooked up. The battery cables are here. The smart shunt, I've already made sure it was tight. Yes. So we're here. So as far as hooking up batteries, I have, we watch a lot of other cruisers out there and RVers, and one tip that you'll hear, and I think we're gonna after we do our test runs here, we'll probably implement that, is to make sure that your positive battery cables are the exact same length. And so what we'll probably do here is we'll probably create another positive battery cable off the bus bar that is the exact same length as this one, and we'll run one to each of the positive batteries, and that way we have exactly the same length positive cables running to the system. So for now though, this is the old-fashioned way to do it, especially with lead-acid batteries. RV batteries, RVers, they don't even know about that trick, I don't think, most of them, but that's something that cruisers are doing. So clearly there's something to it. So we're going to keep that in mind and upgrade the way we hook up our batteries when we get our new ones for sure. So, excuse me. Something that I thought very important to tell everybody. So very important information about the Multiplus. We ordered this Multiplus through Amazon, and it was one of the Amazon vendors, I guess you call it, the private sellers that sell through Amazon. Anyway, I'll double check the name of that company and I'll put it in the notes on this video because those guys are awesome. And one of the services they provide is that they program the Multiplus before they send it to you. So they called before they mailed this Multiplus, found out which type of batteries we had, what our setup was, and they pre-programmed the Multiplus. So, we just turned it on, and right out of the gate, it did its thing and went to bulk charge. Now it's in absorption. These had been sitting, they weren't completely topped off, so as soon as we activated the power, Multiplus started running and it's charging the batteries. So super excited about that. I was nervous to turn it on. The other thing that I've checked out is the smart shunt. And there is no display for the smart shunt. It's just on your phone. And I knew that I'd be okay with that because on our RV, we had a display. The dang thing was so tiny, I never used it. I just used the app on the phone because you couldn't hardly see the little tiny round screen. It didn't help a whole lot. So fire up the app, connect it to the smart shunt. The nice thing is that this app's already set up for these batteries because I used it on the RV, so I didn't have to do anything here. And the only thing the smart shut doesn't know yet is that the batteries are totally topped, where they're topped up at, because the charger's running. So it's showing 100%. I think it's gonna calibrate it as these things charge. But anyway, yeah. So here will be our measure of power. So once the shore power is disconnected, then this thing, when these are totally full, this thing should be calibrated and we'll be in business. So that's great news too. So check on the smart shunt. So far so good on the Victron. We are getting power to our main panel. So our next step is to start flipping on circuit breakers and finding out if what I hooked up is actually what I hooked up, meaning the air conditioner, the water heater, stuff like that. So we're going to slowly proceed through that, figure out which outlets are on which circuit breaker, try to make some sense of that, find out if we want to change anything on that panel before we screw it completely on. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this panel finally assembled now that everything's solid and where we want it. And I'm kind of regretting using this really stiff wire. The original wiring of the boat is very soft and flexible, but man, using this outdoor wire that I thought would be so good for the build, it makes it super tough to move these wires around. So that's part of my challenge. Also, in hindsight, I think maybe I ran the wires in a little too forward on the box. Where we try to shove this together, it's going to be impacting with all the wires coming out of the back of the panel. Which obviously correcting that now would be a huge undertaking. So hoping I'm wrong about that. But anyway, so my plan right now, I think I'm going to try to get this back cover box actually secured. So the screws that hold it will be under the panel. And I think from a look standpoint, and then also with this secured, I'll be able to have it stay in place while I wrangle this panel back into where it goes. So that's kind of my plan at this point. Now the best, screwing into this little plastic, I'm not sure how strong it's going to be. The backup plan would be a nut, a bolt that we could put on there. But to start with, I'm just going to pre-drill, and I'm just going to use some basic screws to hold this. We may not even keep those there because we'll see what kind of problems we have doing this. So that's where I'm at. I'm looking for a drill bit that'll be the right size. Actually, the screws